Chapter 4. El Oro de los Tigres starts in Vertin's suitcase, where Druvis III, our beloved aristocracy, wakes up from an afternoon nap, sweat beads on her forehead, as she mutters about her nightmares. Visions of Vertin caught in a storm. Could she have merely dreamed of the events of the previous chapter? Was it Dexperian? If you're curious, you can find the recap, along with many others, right here on my channel, so be sure to check them out. Anyways, back to the story. Druvis reflects on everything the team endured after their return from the 1920s to Foundation headquarters. Upon arrival, everyone had to go for a private debriefing. Vertin went first, sent straight to a department under Madame Z's control. She unfortunately never made it back. Sotheby, thanks to her old Arcanist lineage, was spared a lot of the usual scrutiny. Her limited scientific expertise and social awkwardness quietly swept under the rug. Meanwhile, Mr. Apple found the chaos around Regulus' arrival hard to stomach, but still, being the gentleman he was, he managed to handle it with grace. As for Regulus herself, her past among regular folk clung to her like an unwelcome shadow, an unspoken stain in the eyes of the Foundation's elites. Druvis was the last to be retrieved from the suitcase by a Foundation member. In the Grand Library, Miss Vice President was waiting. She asked Miss Weyhauser to sign the contract that would officially induct the entire crew into the committee. However, Druvis had to decline, citing her lack of the expertise in such matters, her unwillingness to assume responsibility for the group's fate, and, above all, her sheer reluctance to be bound by such a decision. Instead, she requested time to think, and most importantly, a meeting with Vertin, hoping to reach a shared decision with the mutual savers consul, Constantine, and accustomed to refusals and unwilling to leave matters unfinished, pressed the issue with measured insistence. She subtly hinted at the lack of the real alternatives. After all, no other organization possessed the power or resources of the Foundation, let alone the unwillingness to take in refugees displaced from 1929. Beyond persuasion, Constantine sought to shift Druvis' perspective entirely. She shed light on Vertin's true status within the Foundation, making it clear that she was far from unique. Others like her had walked the corridors of time and space before, gathering lost wanderers, plucking storm-tossed drifters from the tides of the history to make matters worse. Admitting the timekeeper was out of the question, Vertin was undergoing procedures and her suitcase had been seized for experimentation. Yet, in a gesture of apparent goodwill, the Foundation allowed Druvis to stay, granting her a limited window to make up her mind. Right after the warm reception of Miss Druvis, Constantine decided to pay Madame Z a visit, settling into her subordinate's private office to wait. However, before impatience could take hold, Madame Z appeared at the door. She got straight to the point, assigning Madame Z to Druvis' group. Her orders were simple yet firm: gain their trust and extract every ounce of value for the Foundation. Meanwhile, in the residential quarters of the Foundation, Miss Sotheby was indulging in her favorite pastime, brewing alchemical potions. Locked away behind a closed door, she worked in secrecy, concocting an elixir for escape with a few ingredients at her disposal. However, her plan unraveled due to the flaw in her brewing technique. The mistake did not go unnoticed. Guards intervened, swiftly putting an end to her experiments and reminding her in no uncertain terms that she was not permitted to leave her room. Later, the same day, at the Rehabilitation Center, our old friend Lilya receives battlefield mock exam materials of Zeno Academy from one of her scholars, Leilani. While reviewing the exam content, she briefly crosses paths with Madame Z and Druvis III, who were passing by Vertin's chamber. They exchange quick greetings before Madame Z and Druvis depart together. Left alone in a quiet contemplation, staring at the unconscious body of Vertin, Lilya uncorks a bottle of something strong, takes a slow, deliberate sip, cheering for the health of Timekeeper. At the same time, Madame Z and Druvis arrive at her office, where, behind closed doors, they have a serious conversation. Miss Weyhauser voiced her concerns about how Vertin was hypnotized and forced into unconsciousness. Beyond that, she couldn't shake the feeling that they are not guests, but prisoners confined under the pretense of safety. Every locked door, every watchful gaze from the guards, and every restriction placed upon them only reinforces this uneasy truth. To Druvis, their so-called sanctuary within the Foundation feels less like protection and more like a gilded cage. After hearing Druvis III's grievance, Madame Z offers an unexpected alternative, one that strays from the path Constantine has laid out. Instead of accepting the deal, she suggests a different course, turning down the committee's offer and transferring to another department within the same Pavlovo Foundation. There, they could align with her and Vertin, working discreetly to loosen Constantine's grip without drawing unwanted attention. No open defiance, no grand rebellion, just a slow, deliberate shift in power, executed with care and precision. Alternative that ensures that they don't become mere puppets in Constantine's grand plan. Back in her room, Sotheby was still under guard. Suddenly, chaos erupted. Screams, shouts, and the sounds of hurried footsteps. Before she can make sense of it, a thick tree branch crashes through the lock, forcing the door open. Peering into the hallway, she was met with an unexpected sight. The guards who once stood vigilant at her door were now scattered across the floor, scrambling to contain the aftermath of an unnatural invasion of plant life. Vines and branches twist and coil, breaking through the walls and floor, unmistakably sprouting from Vertin's confiscated suitcase. But what caught Sotheby's attention the most is the nature of these plants, the bare and uncanny resemblance to the arcane abilities of no one other than Druvis III. Meanwhile, X visited Regulus and Mr. Apple, both confined to a guest room. Unable to send gifts through normal means, he had to sneak them in through the chimney, since delivering gifts through normal means was out of the question, thanks to the Foundation's misplaced trust in Regulus, despite her official joining the Foundation recently. Regulus had been assigned to share a room with Mr. Apple. We could assume that the reason behind this decision was quite simple. Foundation members hoped that Captain would persuade the unyielding gentleman to sign a contract. As usual, their conversation turned to theories, though this time it shifted the focus. Instead of their usual musings, they analyzed the storm, piecing together the insights from the report X had recently shared with Regulus. Their conclusions were unsettling. The storm's occurrences seemed completely erratic, with no discernible pattern in time, location, or duration. Yet, despite its apparent randomness, it felt as though something or someone was holding it in check, preventing it from spiraling into uncontrollable chaos. Regulus offered an analogy. The storm was like a sailing ship with unseen hands guiding its tides. The thought struck a chord with X. It mirrored the threat theory once proposed by Madame Z. But before they could explore the idea further, a sudden explosion rocked the room. The walls trembled, then collapsed, sending dust and debris into the air. As the rubble settled, Sotheby and Druvis III emerged from the wreckage. Ever the pragmatist, X took a quick survey of the destruction and, with his usual dry wit, noted that the building was remarkably well suited for an uprising. Then, without hesitation, he made his stance clear. He had no intention of being caught in the crossfire, nor was he willing to jeopardize his stance with the Foundation for their sake. X swiftly turned on his heels and vanished into the shadows. Druvis and Sotheby watched X leave, their gazes heavy with unspoken words. He had made his choice, neither siding with the crew nor aligning himself fully with the Foundation, but there was no time to dwell on his decision. Druvis revealed her master plan to Sotheby. She wanted to start a rebellion. Believing the timekeeper had been unjustly treated, freeing Sotheby, Regulus, and Mr. Apple was the first step in gathering support. Druvis then turned to Sotheby with a crucial request: keep your potions at the ready. With the Foundation gods already descending upon them, they needed every advantage. Sotheby's alchemy would be vital in enhancing Druvis's arcane abilities, ensuring they had the strength to fight back. In the grand lobby of the St. Pavlovo Foundation, Constantine carried out her duties with the resistance of several Foundation clerks. Their routine was abruptly disrupted by the sudden appearance of Mr. Apple on screens, who boldly declared war. He and Regulus proclaimed that they had seized control of the Foundation and demanded the immediate release of Vertin and the rest of the crew. However, the grand projection was swiftly cut short. The Foundation staff simply disconnected the power, neutralizing this dramatic announcement in an instant. Unfazed, Constantine resumed her work as if nothing had happened, while Regulus seethed with frustration at the dismissal of their bold move.
Before her anger could escalate, Mr. Apple calmly brought her back to reason, reminding her that now was not the time for outrage, but for action. With war officially declared, the team had far more pressing matters to attend to: securing defensible positions, fortifying their stronghold, stockpiling food and water, and establishing a proper watch to guard Vertin's suitcase and its occupants. Efficiency and preparation would be key if they hoped to stand a chance against the Foundation's inevitable response. At the same time, in the Joint Committee's meeting room, an emergency session was underway. The committee members sat around the table discussing the new Arcanist's revolt with little urgency. Most dismissed it as an insignificant disturbance, viewing the Arcanist's behavior as predictable, if not simply foolish and hardly a real threat, stating that any New Age movement didn't cause the Foundation any serious harm. As the meeting neared its end, the members began to disperse, agreeing on a simple solution: round them up and send them to the School of Discipline. But Madame Z saw an opportunity. She presented a Storm Reformation, Manpower and Discipline, a draft already approved by the House of Integratus, to the committee. Instead of repressing the Arcanist, the Foundation would form a new unit of this unregistered Arcanist, operating under the direct oversight and responsibility of Timekeeper. This unit would enjoy great autonomy, a separate department, yet still remain under the Foundation's authority. The proposal was met with immediate backlash. Committee members protested, their voices rising in discontent. Madame Z stood her ground. She reminded them that this time, deportation was not an option. They were in a desperate need of manpower. Unlike previous recruits, this particular group had no innate loyalty to the Foundation. They had not grown up idolizing it, nor did they see service as an honor. Their arcane abilities had long been wielded on their own terms outside the law, and the only reason they remained within the Foundation's walls was Vertin herself, the sole thread connecting them to the institution. The room erupted in the cacophony of objections, with the voices overlapping in a heated debate. But before the argument could spiral further, the door swung open, and all conversations were abruptly silenced by the arrival of Constantine. She joined the discussion and decided to change the topic.
She turned to Katz and Pedra committee members, seeking their opinions. Both voiced similar concerns: management dictate, the Foundation's potential reputation losses, and the risks of arcane technology. They stood firmly against any peace policies, arguing for the removal of the few rights Arcanists still had and the enforcement of even stricter regulations. After listening to their points, Constantine disagreed. She urged them to see the bigger picture. If neither the Foundation nor Vertin took this Arcanist under their wing, someone else inevitably would. Moreover, as a timekeeper, Vertin would continue encountering outsiders, and considering her childhood inclinations, it was only a matter of time before her own loyalty came into question. To settle this ambiguity, Constantine called upon the one person who knew Vertin best, Seneto, and asked if she believed Vertin was truly loyal. Seneta's initial answer was predictably yes, but Constantine wasn't satisfied. She rephrases the question, framing it in the context of the Warden's Hotel incident in 1929, when Manus the Dictic had kidnapped Vertin and she had to agree to join them. Seneta quickly deflected, blaming Arcana's exceptional skills in manipulation and blackmail. She insisted that Vertin had only acted under immense pressure. Satisfied with their response, Constantine thanked Seneta for her input and dismissed her to rest. Now, only one opinion remained unheard by Vice President, Madame Z's. Ms. Z stated that, in her view, Vertin was largely trustworthy, though she had a critical sense of some of the Foundation's decisions in past. She added that with the right approach and flexible management, the proposed draft could yield an excellent results. Having heard all sides, Constantine made her decision, and to surprise of everyone, she said,
"Carry it out, then."
Instead of going to rest as Constantine advised, Sonetto made her way to her old deskmate's room, where Matilda, who at the very moment was engaged in an unexpected struggle, fending off a mischievous creature trying to snatch her divination equipment. Interrupted by the uninvited guest, Matilda awkwardly offered her assistance. Sonetto gratefully accepted, requesting a reading about her future. The two girls sat down and placed their hands on a crystal bulb as Matilda began to peer into Sonetto's face. As visions emerged, Matilda imprinted them thoughtfully. Sonetto stood at a crossroad, torn between an important decision. Her subconscious desires and the morals instilled in her since childhood waged war within. She felt a pull toward the people she cared about, yet she could not fully let go of her past. Sonetto nodded quietly, admitting she had a difficult day. She crossed her lingering doubts. She felt as though she hadn't done enough, that she had failed both Miss Druvis and Vertin in the committee's meeting. In response, Matilda offered a simple piece of advice: follow your heart. But Sonetto shook her head, recalling that the last time she had done so, it ended badly for everyone. Finally, the crystal bulb revealed its final vision: the path Sonetto should take, a road she had already walked before, urging her to move forward without hesitation. Letting out a weary sigh, Sonetto surrendered to fate. Convinced that the reading had confirmed what she already knew deep down, she thanked Matilda warmly before they parted ways for the night. So, as some of you probably noticed, the video is about to end, but the actual conclusion of chapter 4 is nowhere to be seen. And you're absolutely right, this is part 1 of the recap. Don't worry, part 2 is coming in next week, not in 3 months. And yeah, I get it, a 2-part recap sounds like ridiculous, but trust me, there is a reason. Chapter 4 has way more content than the earlier ones. Now, about something else you might have noticed, my voice. Some of you have been calling me sir, dude, guy in the comments, but surprise, I'm actually more of a lady, girl, woman, take a pick really. Fun fact, I used a free AI voice in the past because I didn't have a mic, but now I finally invested into one. And hey, while I've got your attention, this is a perfect time to ask for a small favor. Consider subscribing, leaving a like, dropping a comment, or even sharing with a friend. Just imagine being one of the first people to subscribe to a creator who might blow up later. How cool is that? So let's grow together. Also, I've got plans to explore more gacha anime games in the future, though Reverse 1999 will still be the heart of the channel. Leave your suggestions and critiques in the comments. I really do read all of them. Thanks a bunch for sticking around. Gotta go now.